Welcome, Brent.
Welcome. Hello. Hey, Ken.
GNUSpective episode 3. Nice. Well, today, since we're plugging along on the testnet and about to enter phase 2 here very shortly, I kind of wanted to talk more about the state of the industry and everything that we've been seeing, and maybe a little bit of tokenomics. Again, not financial advice. This was just when I put out that tweet yesterday, it was just showing what ChatGPT had dissected my Monte Carlo analysis that I'd done a couple of years ago on, just how the economics work in terms of adoption and usage of the AI and usage of the tokens, what can happen to the price. Now, no guarantees, because it's all probability, and basically we try to make the probability as high as possible that will happen. Of course, there's numerous things that can happen in that time frame, but that's kind of the goal, if you will, of what we're going to be marching towards in the adoption and all that, with not too many adopters even, and it still does a pretty good chart. And I don't know if you saw that, but I posted that yesterday on Twitter, and just did a ChatGPT session, and then took its analysis of it and put it in a document and into a PDF that people could download and look at. But it breaks it apart.
Hey, Ken, I just want to interrupt for a moment. The very moment we went live, on my end, I'm picking up a lot of noise. I can make out what you're saying. Okay. I don't know if anyone else in the channel is experiencing the same thing, but I just thought I'd lift that.
And is that the noise you're hearing?
Oh, it's gone now.
Yeah, sorry, it's my air filter in the background. I'll turn that off. So yeah, it's probably, fans moving around, probably generating a lot of noise, plus electromagnetic push field back and all that. So that's good. All right. Well, that's good to know. I didn't even think about that. It's been on for so long. It's just like noise in the background that I don't even remember anymore. So, well, cool. Yeah. So in general, if you want to pull that up, I don't know if you saw it or not. If you go to, it's on our website, but here, let me post this for you to copy link address. I'm going to post this in the chat here for you to pull up, and I'll just kind of go over that. Here we go, chat. All right. So that's, if you look at that, if you click on that link there, whoops, what the heck's going on? All right. It's doing something weird where I can't click on the link, but okay. I'll click on it over here. So you got that up, Brent? I just kind of want to talk a little bit about this. In general, what I did was I decided yesterday, because people were asking about, there's some tokens coming available on the Polygon network, like February 15th or something like that. A good set of those are in the hands of what we call OG, original gangster water holders. And I'm pretty sure that almost all those guys are friendly. In fact, one of the big ones is actually kind of working with us, and that's Cthulhu, who has quite a bit of those. And so he has no plans on, crushing the price of the stock and selling all his shares and all that. Now, there is about 175,000 that are in the hands of some water holders on a previous project that was part of an airdrop. But again, if they tried to even dump it out, they really couldn't, because it's all on Polygon right now. And I would encourage them not to do that, because once we open up the bridge, they're going to be able to slowly leak those out or sell those off at a much higher price and make quite a bit of money, especially when these tokenomics are in place. And that's the reason I did this yesterday, was to show people, look, even if it does come out and we have the bridge working, it's not going to be a big deal, because if you look, we have done economics for people selling the tokens, right? And that's all in that machinations.io simulation system. And so anybody can go in there. We're public about that. Go look at it. Go tweak it. Go increase the rate that you want the tokens to be sold off. We were pretty good about figuring out, how many tokens would be sold and per day, and how many people were going to be doing AI, and the rate of burn and all that. And if you look at this document that I showed you, in fact, I actually could probably share this really quick. So yeah, this document here that I sent out yesterday. And again, this is not predicting the price. What this is doing is showing you the levers that we put in there to make it where eventually this thing will hockey stick because of the adoption of using our system for AI. And this is what it does. And we have the burn mechanism in there. You can see that right there. We have the transaction and conversion fees that we take, and the demand drivers. Okay, so now here's the demand drivers. And some of the things we did in the simulation is we turned off the enterprise buying demand completely. And it still did this. It took longer, but it's still hockey sticked. And the reason is because we have other transactions that are going on, like game developers buying the tokens in order to put their system on Genius, and the game developers or the game players trading the NFTs. That is all part of the transactions that happen on our blockchain. And we get a small piece of that, and that's the transaction fee. So even though if we turned off the enterprise buying and the game developers were still executing and they were trading NFTs and all that, just like a standard decentralized finance, it's still operating and it still works. Now, but the thing that I like about our system is when both of these are on, the impact is much quicker and much higher. Because when enterprise is buying AI and ML, right, of course, that's contributing to the transactions and the costs and driving the price up, because we're burning tokens the whole time these transactions are happening. And so combined, these demand streams sustain and accelerate token price growth, but especially after reaching critical adoption thresholds, which is what's in the Monte Carlo analysis. And so, and the minting dynamics, you have to remember, I had said before, we are not going to mint new tokens unless the network slows down, right? Or somebody like enterprise level software companies come in and they're like, hey, I want to buy $1 million worth of Genius tokens, but I can't because it's at $20. And if I try to buy them, it's going to drive the price up to $60, right? And so our controlled minting is actually to smooth out volatility is all it is. It is not to, make a bunch of money and slam it out there and rug everybody. It's to control volatility, and the volatility is what happens will slow down your network and the network transactions. So volatility means that they can't buy the tokens, they can't utilize them, and so that in return slows down our network and slows down our fees that we're taking, right? And so we don't want to do that. And so that's what the minting part is just to control volatility. And you can see right here, preventing runaway inflation while supporting long-term ecosystem health. And by the way, I just gave ChatGPT my Monte Carlo analysis and said, and the data, and then the output data, and the triggers and the mechanisms. Here's the breakdown of the inputs and the mechanisms on it. I said, hey, analyze this for me. Tell me what this thing is doing, right? That's all I said to it. And this is all it spewed out. It spewed this out. I did not write this. It spewed this out, and I just formatted it so it looked nice in a document. And it basically analyzed it, and here's the cleaned inputs reveal key elements and mechanisms driving the simulation. Enterprise buying, right? That's one of our levers in there. How much are they going to be buying? How much AI are they going to be doing? How much blah, blah, blah. Game developer buying, minting, burn rates, fees. I guess one of the things that kind of missed is the NFT trading and stuff like that, which we have in there as well. It missed that part, but that's fine, because that's what I was just saying earlier, is that like if you have an NFT and it's trading, and we get a piece of that when you trade it on the Super Genius network of the Genius tokens for all the trading and things like that. So when it comes out from the Super Genius network into the Genius smart contract, we get a fee for that trading on our wallet. And so there's all these fees and the burn rate that happens in there as well when it removes 10% of the tokens while the enterprise buying happens. And so you can take this document along with the machinations diagram and even the output of the hockey stick and kind of see that during the first 500 days, the token price remains relatively stable, which is fine, reflecting gradual adoption. And this is the thing that's important for people. I want people to understand this gradual adoption is because we only put 2 companies and about 10 games running the system, and then 2 enterprise companies buying and producing AI. So if you think about it, that's why it's taking gradual adoption, right? That's crazy. It's like so slow because of the number of games that are going to adopt this and the number of companies that are going to come on board. If we completely fail or we hit our low water mark of 2 companies come on board and 10 games come on board, yeah, it's going to take 700 days to hit the goal according to the simulation. So so it's something that this is what happens, and this is what happens with the token price, and this is what happens with us raising funds. And this raising funds is either us selling to keep the volatility down, or the transaction fees. And this is what this is basically how much money we'll have in our treasury, and we could sit there and buy back tokens if we wanted to here too as well. There's really no need to, because the burn is going to make the token economics where we don't have to buy them back. Of course, we'd always try to buy back the we're always going to finish off buying back the exploit tokens. We're down to 63K, which is really nice out of the 500K that were exploited. And then here you can tell, here's this dissect. I told it, hey, dissect the Monte Carlo simulation for me. Tell me everything that's in there. And here you go. And so you can see the conversion fees and all that. I had to tell it the conversion fees because that data is inside the Monte Carlo analysis, but it didn't. I gave it the file, but I don't know if it could pull it from there. So I just told it what the conversion rates were, the burn rates and all that, and the demand layers and the connections and triggers, between enterprise and developer buying. This developer buying is probably a little bit wrong. Like I said, that's developer buying and people trading NFTs and things like that. And so this is what happens with ChatGPT. It's mostly correct, but it's not really developer buying. It's developer and game player buying is what it should be. So it's just mislabeled, really. But that's what happens with ChatGPT. You have to tell it, oh, that's the wrong thing. That's really this and this. And it was probably mislabeled in the Monte Carlo analysis too. It probably just picked it up from there. And then you can see here's the correlation between inputs, outcomes, likely outcomes, based on the simulation results. And this is all we're doing is a Monte Carlo simulation. And you can go in there and you can tweak it. It's all open for you to do. Go duplicate that in machinations, or change the triggers, change how many game developers come on board, how many people do NFT transactions, all of that. And this was done like 3 years ago, by the way. And here's the conclusion. Tokenomics model is robust and self-reinforcing, and that's the burn mechanism. By combining deflationary mechanisms, I did not write that. ChatGPT wrote that after it analyzed it. So take it for what it is. I mean, trust the AI or don't, but you can go in there and analyze it. If people want to see the AI chat that I had with them, I'll make that public as well. And you can go in there and ask it additional questions if you want. So I just wanted to talk about that because I'm not talking about the price necessarily. I'm talking about the economic stability of the token and the tokenomics behind that allow the price to increase. And it also allows you to just hold the tokens and not have to stake them because of that. And that's probably something else I'm going to go ask ChatGPT and say, hey, break this down for me on how this works and how come I don't have to stake my tokens if I just hold them, because of this mechanism. It kind of seems to remove the necessity to stake my tokens at all. If I just hold them, it's like staking, basically. And so it's kind of tied to the transaction fees. Okay, so now I'm going to take a breath here. I'll let you chime in, Brent. What do you think? What are your thoughts about all this?
Actually, I was just noticing a question here. Someone said, or a comment, I would love to test this technology in the beat making industry. Um, that's kind of interesting. That's not an arena I'm too familiar with. I'm not sure if I could make sense of that, but has Genius AI looked at those applications?
What
And
kind of industry?
the
Meat?
beat making, the sector of the music industry focused on the creation, production, and distribution of beats, which
Oh,
are instrumental tracks used primarily in genres like hip hop, R&B, electronic music. All right, I had to go look that up to make certain I had that right. Um,
uh,
and I will say personally, for me, I had not thought of that. I'd have to look, but maybe that's kind of like an NFT world, where you actually turn those beats into something that are NFTs. Perhaps that's kind of the take.
yeah, you can use the machinations.io. And just so everybody knows, machinations.io was originally set up to do in-game economics so that you can figure out how well your game's going to execute. And that's what they mainly focused on. But I realized very quickly that, oh my God, this thing can be used for tokenomics really well. And I don't have to go write code for Monte Carlo analysis and figure all this out. I can just diagram it out. And I diagrammed about half of it, and then I hired a guy who had been doing this for a few years, and he fleshed it all out for me, and so made it the way it was. And so he put in more triggers, and I was just running into problems because I didn't know how their diagramming software worked necessarily, and I didn't want to kind of spend a lot of time getting up to speed on that either. But so this is kind of what I released yesterday, and I kind of wanted to talk about that in general. And then if we don't have any questions on that, we can move on, or if you have any comments on any more of what I've put up here. I know you got to go look at it now. I know you'll spend a couple hours on
Mm.
it as well, and try to poke holes in it. Which I'm glad that at least I have a Chat GPT that poked holes in it, or couldn't poke holes in it. I guess really.
But the openness to the feedback on this, of course, is always there. And as we go continue with our rollout, I know that we're going to have witness those levers do what they need to do. And right now, I personally don't foresee that there needs to be something other than what's already there. So, but thank you, Ken, for of course having put in that work and a kind of a duplicate effort, because you've already put a lot of that groundwork in a long while ago. To revisit, though, I think is a sensible thing.
Well, I guess to be brutally honest here, I was kind of getting uh, depressed a little bit because and I'm over it now. But the Trump coin comes out, everybody exits AI, and the altcoins and dumps into Trump to basically make a quick buck, and it really I could not bring myself to do it. I'm like, look, I cannot invest in a Ponzi scheme. I had an opportunity to do it, and I was like, no, I'm not going to do it. That's not what I'm here on earth for. I got to focus on my project, right? But just it really makes me mad when people just, are just in it for the money and going over in that in the Ponzi scheme. It has no value. It has no utility. It's all about churning money, and I couldn't do it. I couldn't pull the trigger. I don't need to pull the trigger either, but it's like the only thing my wife told me that was interesting. And I was like, yeah, maybe, but I can't compromise my principles on it. She said, you could have went in there and made all that money, turned around and pulled it back out, and then shoved it into Genius. I said, yeah, I guess, but then I'm distracted, right? I'm distracted from I can trade. I could trade other tokens. I've done that for many years, trade and Ethereum against Bitcoin, arbitrage and stuff like that, and I can make like $20,000 a month doing that. But then what? It takes a lot of my time. It's not what I really want to. It's not the goal. It's not the main goal of this. So anyway, but it's fine. At least the policies of the new administration are very, very welcome. I made some comments on that. I could care less whether you love or hate Trump or what he does in the background, just the policies that he's putting out there to help the world. But we can talk about one of the policies, or one of the things that he did, and it's not really a policy, but just the AI infrastructure bill, or not bill, but kind of a, I guess he deal, right? The deal that he brought together with Matsushan and Larry Ellison and the what's the guy's name from OpenAI?
I should know that too. I've forgotten.
Yeah, Sam Altman, and let's talk a little bit about that, because my view of this, and of course, people are going to disagree with this, but that's fine. It's very short term. Yeah, you might be able to make a lot of money. It depends on how quickly they can build those, and they already have it going on in Texas where they're building it. And even Elon Musk is like, these guys don't have the money, blah 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 blah. It's the wrong thing to do, which is I find kind of interesting, because Elon talks with Trump, and why wouldn't Trump talk with him and David Sachs about this and whether it was a good idea? In my personal opinion, and take that for what it's worth, I've just predict the future quite a bit over the last 20 years, is that they're centralizing artificial intelligence, just like Sam Altman had said like a couple of years ago. He wanted $7 billion, $7 trillion actually is what he wanted, to build a chip manufacturing industry in the U.S. because he didn't have enough chips to build OpenAI. There weren't enough available. And with China and Taiwan thing where all the chips are being made, there's also that kind of global impact, if you will. And he wanted $7 trillion. To me, this is just 500 billion of that 7 trillion that he wanted to do, to build chip manufacturers to make OpenAI. But that's centralizing into these warehouses and data centers. And who do you think is going to control all that? And who do you think is going to make the money on all that? The OpenAI and Matsusan, or whatever his name is, from whatever his investment firm is, and then Larry Ellison and Oracle. That's the opposite of what the blockchain is. The blockchain is supposed to be decentralized. Everybody can participate and democratize AI, and that's what Genius is. And so that's fine that they're doing that. It's going to take them a long time, and I said this before. It's going to take them, 12 months to 18 months to ramp up that stuff, right? And it's only going to be a small portion. By the time they ramp up, there's going to be so much more demand for AI. That's where we come in, and so God bless them. We can always use their devices eventually, right? But this is democratizing AI across the world, where you can use your iPhone, and your home computers, instead of centralizing all that AI and data. And to me, that's a scary thought, to centralize all that AI into, some incumbents, basically, if you will, like OpenAI and Microsoft. Microsoft owns 49% of OpenAI. So really Microsoft. And so what you're doing is you're giving the big businesses the blessing to go forward with, controlling AI in the US, but under these big businesses. Well, sorry to say, but the genie's out of the bottle, and you guys are going to be disrupted. And that's what I've been set to do for the last 8 years, seeing that this is coming forward. And this kind of a nice segue. I'm going to get your thoughts on all this first, but it's a nice segue into DeepSeek, and I'll talk about that after you give me your thoughts on all this.
Well, my own thoughts, the centralization for me, kind of the first thing that comes to mind, who is controlling what ultimately ends up becoming, bias that is, put into these models. And I am wary of the kind of philosophy that like Google had long ago, the don't be evil. My viewpoint is you don't really create good simply by not being evil. AI is a occasion where we really, as humanity, we need to start reflecting much more deeply on what it is to be human, reflect much more deeply on what it is to be good. And we're almost afraid to use that word. Like I say, I'm so scared to say that. I'll just say I won't be evil. if we are struggling with concepts like that, then we've left the development of this AI to people who have perhaps not grappled with that, but they are singularly going to be making these decisions. For me, my feeling is decentralization, where the AI is the work is being done in a fashion where many hands, in a sense, have touched it, is a safer path, and I think it buys more time for us. The participation that is inherent in decentralization, particularly if we're talking about the GNUS.ai network, where everyone starts to realize that they're playing a role. It helps to invite the questions, that those big questions and the big answers. Humanity needs some time to get this figured out, and so much of what we've seen that has gone wrong in recent decades, never mind AI, has just been a consequence of centralization. And we've seen so much good come from decentralization in other categories. Like I say, never mind AI. If we're just talking about the web and the media, to be able to finally get more and more voices out there about characterizing what's going on in our society and how we should address issues, and et cetera. So, I'm with you, Ken, that I appreciate the well-intentions, the good intentions of making the U.S. like the center of AI. I appreciate that. I just have some reservations about the centralization, as you do.
Yeah, and I'm looking at some of the comments, and I posted like one of them about the big government, big corporate government AI. Yeah, so look, it's and people had said on X, and Larry Ellison's a CIA stooge anyway, and so okay, let them build that. Let them put the 500 billion in that, and then the government, and the CIA can use it for, doing their warfare or whatever they're going to use it for. They said, oh, we can make mRNA vaccines, right? And I was like, right, like, yeah, no, let's try to root cause that instead of injecting a vaccine to, figure out, if you root cause it. That's my idea. But Alex Sacha, great comment here, by the way. Exactly 20% of the cost or less, right? And that's the one thing that we have over them. So what's nice is I just realized that you can put on the chat, the people's questions on the chat right there. And so that's what I did. I just showed it, and then I'll hide it there. But yeah, the 20% is really a good, or less. Like I said, they already have capital. They have to spend 500 billion or whatever they're spending, 100 billion to build that Texas thing, right? They have to have the builders, they have to have the land, they have to have the taxes on that land, they have to have the capital expenditures on the H100s or the H800s, whatever they are these days. It used to be H100. I think they're up to H800 now. But they have to have all that stuff, and that only benefits if you're only about the money, right? I have stock in some companies. Like I have stock in Tesla, right, in my 401k for my retirement, and Google and Nvidia and everybody else. So don't get me wrong, there's a place for that. But in this particular case, they're going to get disrupted out of existence unless that they're going to have a more powerful AI that's going to be sucked up by the government and used by the government to do God knows what, probably help develop stealth fighters and crap like that. So that's all fine. And that keeps the AI for them inside the government, like you said, big corporate government there. But Genius is like, it's kind of like we're not competing in the same space, right? They're doing all the government stuff really, and maybe some high end health stuff a little bit, but I think they're taking the wrong approach to try to, you know, they say vaccinated against cancer by modifying, mRNA or whatever vaccines. And I'm just like, I'll have to look at that more and see. To me, that's kind of scary because I took the COVID one and I wasn't happy about it. Here's a good question, which I don't, people being debanked by the previous administration. Well, I think that's over. With Trump's policies in place and the FDIC list emails coming out and all that, that's kind of something that I feel that will, with the new administration, will be prevented and opened up. In fact, we're already seeing a lot of that, and that's why XRP is up over 600% or something like that. I bought it in at 50 cents and now it's over $3, which is nice. And don't get me wrong, I diversify my portfolio too. I have ETH, I have Bitcoin, I have XRP and things like that in my 401ks. But that is, again, um, they have utility and I believe in them, and that will grow my retirement account over this particular project, which will, change the world is what I'm after there. So, and I love Slime Green's thing here where he said, cost is king for corporations, of course. Yeah. So there's one thing here, Alex, if you want to, I'm not sure what this means. Many of these systems will be self-organizing, so hard to say how they will act as a conglomerate despite how they design individually or connected. Okay.
Well, that's a little bit of the iRobot kind of thing, and Terminator, there is a little bit of a concern for that, yes.
Yeah. I always half-ass joked about, we're building Skynet here. But, it's Skynet is only, you got to put stuff in place, of course, so that when you're really getting to AGI, that it has the prime directive, right? Human life is most important, I guess. Wasn't that the prime directive of Star Trek?
But of course, it may have also been in, the iRobot, do not hurt a human being or something like that.
Right. Yeah, it might have been there too. Yeah. And yeah. All right. So in general, I guess one of the things that helps all this, and one of the things I wanted to kind of discuss with you as well, is if you look at DeepSeek, right? I posted immediately when I saw DeepSeek come out. I put a post on LinkedIn. I'm like, oh my God, these guys are kicking, the Chinese are kicking our ass. If you look at what DeepSeek is, and it can do that modeling with that few of the GPU, do people, I just don't get why AI isn't scared. The other AI companies like OpenAI and Microsoft and all these other guys just aren't scared shitless of this. I know that's a potty mouth, but whatever. It's if you look at what AI, I'm going to pull this up and I'm going to give you my feedback on why I think everybody in the industry should be scared, except for us, which is nice. And I'll show you why. Okay. So, all right. So this DeepSeek thing here. All right. So DeepSeek is a great system that sort of goes along with my thought process on how Genius operates, and I'll explain that in a second. Okay. And this is the I like to show the GitHub account because this part of it, the README, is a lot more informative than their website is. Okay. If you look at this, we present DeepSeek version 3, a strong mixture of experts. Okay. Now I'm going to explain that, and hopefully I explain it correctly, and this is my understanding of it. And so what it does is it can take a slice. Okay, you have all these parameters, and they have 671 billion total parameters, and it takes a slice. And so ChatGPT has all the world's knowledge in its head or in its parameters and everything, and then it trains on that. So instead of doing that, what you do is instead of training on everything in the world that's available, you train on somebody just knowing about cars, for instance, everything that there is to know about cars. That reduces the total parameters down to a lot less, okay? And now what you do is you train the parameters on everybody that knows something about boats. And I gave you this analogy before, Brent, but I'm going to give it to the end users out here, the listeners. And then the third one is you train everything you know about submarines. Okay, now, and you keep going, right? And you do all that. You break it down into these slices of what people's questions are. And now you have a mixture of experts. And let's say you came in and you said, hey, I want to build a car that can act like a boat and a submarine, right? And so those three experts now can be tapped, and all the other experts that are out there, the ones that know about desks, or the ones that know about meat processing or beats, right? And music, they don't need to contribute. And so it basically funnels down into these three experts that basically say, here's how you do it. And here's how you would build that car that floats and acts as a submarine. And so what they've done is, if you think about this, this is like federated learning or federated inference, right? Where it's all doled out, but it's also doled out and split apart by categories, really. And so that really, really feeds well into the GNUS system, because that's what we do. We split all the nodes, but by locality, but each one of those nodes can have this little set of data for inference to sit there and go, hey, I can only hold the car stuff because I'm on my iPhone or I'm on my home computer, and I can't hold that 671 billion total parameters and training data. I only hold the boat data, and this other device only holds the submarine data. But there's going to be multiple devices that hold that data, right? And this is where the DeepSeek comes in. On top of that, if you look, it only required, because of the way they split that apart, it only required this many 2.788 million H800 GPU hours for its full training. That's crazy. All right. And it's remarkably stable. If you think about how disruptive and how much this kicks the ass of those big H100 warehouses and data centers and things like that have to be connected right next to each other because of the training time and all that. This is just a major, major thing that people, I don't think, are getting, right? To me, this is like mind-blowingly great for us, but for the industry in general. And if you look, their search and their verification is pretty high, and it's up there with the Chat GPT 03. I think it said the version 3 is, or maybe it's 01. Let's see here, math. Somewhere in here they have here we go. No, that's not it. Here it is. Total parameters, DeepSeek, Llama. There's another one on there somewhere. I'll have to find that. But even better, and this has kind of blown me away too, is I want to point out to people, and I'm trying to not be technical on this, but if you look at this paragraph right here, the subsequent training stages after the pre-training that they've already done, pre-training require only 0.1 million GPU hours. Do you realize how bullish that is for us? Brent, explain to me why that's bullish for us.
Well, because the processing power, the breadth that we offer, and that reduction in the amount of processing necessary, it makes it perfect for the kind of the devices that we are supporting in our network. It's as if, did they make this for us? Was that the intention?
It seems like, doesn't it? It's like, no, they were optimizing it, and the mobile neural network is also out of Alibaba, and that's another thing that they're kicking our ass. And I know Trump wants to, the administration wants to keep AI in the USA, and I get that for the government side of things, but this is like worldwide stuff. You can't stop this. This is decentralized AI, is what this is. I just don't think that people understand, and they probably didn't know. And whoever brought that to me, thank you for that, by the way. Somebody said, hey, on our thing, can Genius leverage this DeepSeek thing? And this was like a week ago. Somebody put that on. And I'm like, oh, what's DeepSeek? And I went and looked. I'm like, oh my God, holy shit. I'm like, this is like game changing and helps our disruption 1,000%. They did a lot of work for us, to basically make this go world viral, basically. So it's just kind of crazy. And some of the other stuff, that I was thinking about like 8 years ago, we designed an FP8, and that means floating point 8 mixed precision training framework. And well, I didn't really come up with this idea 8 years ago. What it was is there's this thing called gradient descent. And Microsoft came up with this thing called 1-bit stochastic gradient descent. Okay, a lot of words there. All right, I'm going to try to explain it like you're 5, Brent. All right, so gradient descent is basically this big, if you look at it visually, it's this big graph of weights and stuff like that in an AI model. And it's like this big river and valley and hills and things like that in a graph. And what they're trying to do with gradient descent is find the lowest point in that graph, basically the lowest point. It's like you could do raindrops and figure out that, but they do it with mathematics. And that lowest point is the least amount of error that happens when you're analyzing or you're training data, and also when you're doing inference. And so that's kind of a high level thing of what that takes. Now, in order to do that, they have these high number of bits of floating point to do that mathematics behind that, right? And it's sometimes can get up a 256 bit mathematics and finite element analysis and all kinds of stuff. But normally there's 32-bit floating point numbers and 64-bit floating point numbers. But what they've done here is FP8 means that's an 8-bit floating point number, I believe. And that is optimal for you to be able to run that on the GPU, right? And so what they've done is they reduced the 32 bits down to 8 in order to make it much, much faster. And you can do 4 things at once then, 4 more things at once. And so I need to verify that, but I think that's what that means. And I haven't dived in it, but that's me knowing GPUs really well and know what FP8 usually means and mixed precision, what that usually means. I'm pretty sure that's what that means, but I'm not sure if that means 8-bit or there's some other reason for them using FP8. But in my experience on GPUs, FP8 usually meant 8-bit floating point numbers. So anyway, I'm going to pause there because this has just blown me away, and I'm really excited about this because it gives Genius the ability to smoke things like ChatGPT and OpenAI. In my opinion, that's what it does. It gives us the ability to smoke all these other AI systems.
So something I want to say about that, is part of a conversation we've had, months ago, which is, kind of under the mantle, if you build it, they will come, where we knew that there would be advances. We didn't know where the advances come from. It comes from the US, it comes from China, it doesn't matter. We knew there would be advances that we ourselves weren't necessarily foreseeing. I wasn't specifically imagining that this was coming along, but we knew they would come and that they would become like a Christmas gift that just keeps on arriving. It's this strange magical Christmas tree, the Genius Network. You just put it down, and as the research happens around the globe, presents keep on showing up underneath our Christmas tree.
You heard me say that, though, Brent. You heard me say that all this time. I said, look, we are the infrastructure, and the patent part, somebody asked, is there a patent risk with Genius? No, because they're doing AI, and we are not, if they can't, this is open source, and so they're not patenting anything. It's an MIT license, but so you're free to use it, right? And so there's no risk of you infringing on the patent. But and the Chinese market the only thing, our patent is not patenting a way to do AI. And I talked about this many, many times. I said, look, Microsoft research or Google research or Amazon research are going to solve our problems. I thought it was going to be them, but apparently it's not. It's the Chinese that did it. This DeepSeek company. They solved our problem, and that's fine. And Alibaba solved one of our other problems. And I said that from the beginning. We are not focused on solving the AI federated learning distribution problem. What we're providing is a way for everybody to get payments to leverage their GPUs. And that's what the patent is. The patent is not solving AI in this particular way, right? None of that. We don't have any AI patents, really. We have a compute infrastructure with a crypto token payment system. That's the name of the patent. The other patents are all to do with security. And it's really, the patents are all geared towards decentralized infrastructure. and the ability for AI to leverage that. But it doesn't have to just be AI. Like I said, it can be rendering, it can be games. It's kind of this unique proposition that I patented just so that I could make sure that we could build the infrastructure and do the AI correctly without having it controlled by, OpenAI and Microsoft and everybody else. And so, um, yeah. So anyway,
I think I'm going to place all those patents under the mantle of the magic Christmas tree I was just describing. So
yeah, yeah. The base patent is the stand for the Christmas tree, and then all the other little patents are like the branches and the root. And actually, the main patent is actually the stand and the root of it, and then all the patents are the. No, I guess it's the whole tree, and then the other patents are the Christmas ornaments, right?
let's see
Yeah.
what.
So yeah, 0.1 million GPU hours, or that's like 100K, right? Somebody said,
Yeah.
yeah, 100K GPU hours. You realize that terahash on our not terahash, but what is the GPU when we do AI? It's a
Oh,
uh,
teraflops.
teraflop. Yeah. I don't know what the 100K would transfer in GPU hours into teraflops. I guess, yeah, they say GPU hours, and I guess that's on the H100. And the H100, I think, has the H100s had 63 teraflops. So we could probably do the math pretty quickly if that's, I don't know what they have, what the H800 has in teraflops. We could probably look that up. And then if you multiply that by that teraflops by 100,000, and then take our each one of our devices we're saying is about 1 teraflop, then you would know how many devices we would need in order to do the pre-training, the retraining, the subsequent training stages. Somebody wants to do the math on that, feel free to. My brain's still too early in the morning for me to do that.
Yeah, I have arithmetic stage fright, so.
Well, I see something. Yeah. Anyway, um, so DeepSeek. So here I'm going to show this question. I'm going to hide. No, I won't hide this. What is DeepSeek using for AI processing right now? Well, apparently they're using H800s, but a very small set of it, a set of them. So if you look right here, only H GPU hours. I think that's what they're using, or they're probably using a Chinese knockoff of some AI chip, more than likely. I don't think they say, but if you go to DeepSeek, here's the paper link on that too, by the way, that you can read, Brent.
Yeah, I see that.
I just want to kind of talk to people because somebody brought this to my attention. I'm like, yay, another Christmas present for us, yay! And they're moving fast. So I guess they're probably using the H800s that are on Hugging Face, on one of the Hugging Face infrastructure. So they're probably using something like that to prove it out. README waits. Looking to dive deeper, details on the main model, multi-token prediction modules. So yeah, you can see. It's just crazy that what they've done here. This is awesome stuff, and people are on. It has not really gone mass viral yet. It's starting to. I see a lot of people start talking about it now, though, on my X feed, and so it's kind of crazy. Yeah, here's a chat model. Oh yeah, here we go. Chat GPT 4.0. Okay, so it's 4.0. It's not 4.03, but you can see with Claude Sonnet. And this does not even include DeepSeek. Oh no, it does include DeepSeek version 3. Why is that? Here, let me do this. Oh, wish I'd fixed that. Oh, there we go. I can scroll over. You can see that it's so comparable with ChatGPT 4.0. Now I know 4.03 is coming out, but these guys, made it 4.0. They can make it 4.03 compatible. Yeah, you can just see the kind of Yeah, and you can run it locally too. Simple lightweight demo with FP or BF16. So I need to look that up, make sure I know FP8 weights to BF16. Cast. That's a Python code. I could probably look through the Python code. I just want to make sure that I'm not misquoting that FP8 is floating point 8 in here. What the heck's SG lang?
I'm definitely gonna have a lot of fun looking at this, the paper, that link that you were pointing at, because there's a lot of detail in here. And
yeah, and I encourage people to do it. I mean, I've just got the tip of the iceberg on this, but it's just kind of crazy to me, everything.
they've got
You know,
diagrams, and I love diagrams.
yeah. Yeah, I'll have to look at their SG lang to see if there's something we can leverage in there, because right now we're using MNN, which basically compiles from TensorFlow into MNN mobile neural network language. But yeah, well, this will be afterwards, after we launch. But again, this is all on top of our infrastructure anyway, so it's not something that we need to change our infrastructure for. It's just, hey, how can we get these LLMs distributed to our infrastructure, which is more higher level on top of our infrastructure than it is to change our infrastructure or how our infrastructure operates, because it was kind of architected in a way that allows it to be very robust in taking in this things. But I do need to look at that S-line.
Well, just keep in mind that for all this excitement, it would be limited to the number of topics in the universe that people want to train on. And there's probably only 3 or 4 topics in the world. So okay,
Yeah,
maybe
yeah,
a little bit more than 3 or 4.
Music, gaming, and AI right now. See,
Man.
look, gaming and music production.
Yeah, that's it. That's the 2 topics.
That's the 2 topics, and then we throw in AI in there. All right, let's see if there's any more questions, because I'm kind of done promoting DeepSeek, but it's open source. We don't have to promote them. We can just leverage all this technology we can leverage on top of Genius. This is crazy to me.
Someone's got a question that's actually directed at me. What am I doing day to day for Genius? And a lot of that has to do with reviewing the technology we're using, because as we move forward, kind of in alignment with what I've done with my career, is looking for the technology to be used as it was intended to be used. And if otherwise, if it's used outside of those bounds, is it genuinely representing an innovation, or is it something that has gone off the rails? So that a lot of focus on reviewing materials, reviewing design, etc., and then turning around and proposing it, like, well, I see we're doing this. Well, can we shift over to this other arena there? Maybe that will answer that question.
Yeah, and by the way, apparently I do know what I'm talking about. So just for everybody's edification here, quantization FP8, torch float 8, this E4M3, that stands for exponent 4 with a mantissa of 3 bits. Exponent 4 bits, mantissa 3 bits, which is actually 7 bits. But anyway, I guess one of them is probably the positive negative flag. Pretty good guess, huh? See, look, storage format, float 32. I know for a fact that's 32-bit floats. Pretty good guess from old man, huh? Been around for a while. And it has to do with quantization.
Like easy I said, for you to say.
Yeah, easy for me to say. It alludes back to what Microsoft had done like 4 or 5 years ago with 1-bit quantization, but this 8-bit quantization makes it probably where it's less error prone, basically. And people can Google what quantization means, because I don't know if I could explain that like you're a 5-year-old. So fantastic stuff. Okay, so Any other questions in here before what he's doing CTO, day-to-day basis for Genius? All right, who asked that? Anyway, I'm going to scroll back up just in case there was something we missed up here.
Someone asked the question, how can we be sure that China isn't just lying to us? Well, there is that, except that I think they're making this sufficiently public.
Yeah, this is open source.
That's what
Lying to you. Oh, about the numbers and stuff like that? Well, they could be lying. I mean, but there's also test cases in here. You can go run this yourself. If you look, there's local models, and so you can run it. And people have been running it and saying this thing does work. But they could. I wouldn't necessarily say they're lying necessarily. They could have. One thing I am concerned about is during this training data, you have to. Humans have to correct it, right? And Chinese propaganda could be the correction, right? Like if you ask it a question about is the Chinese leader the world's greatest leader, it might come back and say yes, right? And so that's a concern of mine, one of the concerns. And I'll go to their, if you go to DeepSeek, their website, deepseek.com, you can see that they talk about the training model somewhere in there, or maybe it's in the paper where humans had to come in and kind of error correct some of the pre-training data, right?
There's another question here that says, is there a patent risk with Genius and the Chinese market in the wider DeepSeek opportunity?
I don't think so. Like I said, I was explaining earlier, our patent is not on AI itself and that, but the Chinese could take GNUS.ai and run it in their country and run their own GNUS.ai in China. Nothing we can do about that. I mean, everything's open source. They can do it with just about anything. When you're open source, that's the risk you take. So China could steal it, but then it would be localized to just China, more than likely, because when our blockchain's up and things like that, we'll have the Genesis node for that. They could duplicate it and call it, whatever they want, and have it run in China. Sure, but I don't know.
There's another question here, like says, can you shed light on another Christmas present that you recently were, air quotes, gifted? A comment I want to make about that is here we just made a whole bunch of hullabaloo about this DeepSeek thing. There's plenty of things that are happening that will receive no hullabaloo from us at all. A perfect example would be an advancement in the ability to take a model, and it's how much it is capable of being parallelized. Is it 50% capable of being parallelized? Oh, now they've advanced it so that from 50%, it is now 80%, capable of being parallelized. That is one of those unsung moments. When they make those advancements, then that allows us to take, a factor of how many devices that are efficient at processing it on our network. And suddenly, oh, look, we can double it. Oh, look, we can triple it. But broadly, when those kinds of advancements are being made, we're probably not saying anything on our side. And maybe we should, but I just want to make that comment.
Yeah, I think we should start knowing that this is the kind of start of that. Maybe we should start posting that on Twitter and stuff like that, or X, about how this DeepSeek is the greatest thing since sliced bread, and that how it helps us and all that, and just kind of, I wouldn't say partner with them, but if you look here at DeepSeek, here's their API pricing, right? So they're see their stuff. They're kind of, the deepseek.com is going to be competing with OpenAI and ChatGPT and everybody else. Look, they have their own chat here, right? And here's the pricing. Well, sorry to tell them, because we can put everything on Genius. We can make that 80% less price. So they can't compete with us because they're running this stuff on traditional cloud structure, cloud infrastructure. So that's kind of crazy, yeah, because we can do all this chain of thought with the reasoner. So we can take all their source code and put this on Genius event, after we launch, and put this on there and make our own Genius reasoner and Genius chat and everything else. I'm so excited for the future. So excited. Well, we're at an hour now, so I'll just answer real quickly, kind of how the test net's going. There's 2 questions on there. Trial 1 phases are actually going pretty well. We are nearing completion to go into phase 2 with the code. As you saw, there's a bunch of code going on right now, and that is our next step to go into phase 2, and that's getting pretty close. Testnet phase 1, people are enjoying the game, enjoying the wallet. This last part of it is now so that we can start trading the token on the testnet with security enabled. And once that's done, then we'll be able to scale into phase 2 very quickly. And then scaling into phase 3 will be really, really quick after that, because it's just to make sure that it scales correctly. And then phase 3 will be just like, okay, it did it. Or we had to fix this and this and this to make sure. And then after we fix those, it's a lot less things to fix than we've had to fix on phase 1. But yeah, it's going pretty well. I think the wallet's getting there too. What are your thoughts, Brent? You've been looking at the wallet. How much more do we have to go on the wallet side of things?
Well, the last report I was hearing was that the build is now working on each of the platforms. There were some issues, of course, as we were rearranging pieces of the third party and doing some upgrades, like the Boost library, et cetera. And that kind of slows things down. It is what it is when you're dealing with C++. You get all the advantages of that cross-platform capability, but you got a little bit of some bookkeeping to do. But I'm glad to see that it looks like that has been resolved.
Yeah. And then part of that was I kind of mixed things up a little bit. I have a Mac here, and I wanted it to run on my Mac ARM, my M4 Pro that I have sitting here. And I wanted it, so we had to build what's called a FAT library and a FAT executable that can run both the x86 and the ARM-based stuff on OS X. But that also translates into Android as well, because Android has multiple ARM devices, and they have some old x86s. So there's multiple CPUs that need to be supported on Android as well. On iOS, it's all ARM, which is nice. And of course, Windows is all, well, I guess Windows is mostly x86, but there's IoT devices that are ARM. So it's really an ARM and an x86 kind of combined support that we're done with now, finally, where it all seems to be working. So, all right. I think we're about 3 minutes over time. I appreciate everybody coming on. Hopefully this was very informative to everybody about what's going on, and hopefully you guys can, be excited as with the project as I am, and the forward-moving progress that's going on with the AI industry in general. So, thanks for your time, Brent.
Yeah, thanks, Ken. Good talking with you again. We'll catch you next time.